So here we are back at the light stick. This is what we did last time, and what I want to do now is do some actual materials for this thing. So I'm going to switch back just to Studio and Material and start assigning some materials. So this piece here, all of that stuff that's joined there, I'm going to come over here and click New, and this is going to be Body. And I can actually, let's go over to Material Preview, make the material. I'm just going to darken this up so it's kind of black. Don't bring it all the way down though. And I'm going to switch over, I think, to which one? Maybe that one. And I'm going to drop the roughness down to maybe about 0.3 or so. And that's actually going to be the material. Now I'll do something else on the handle in a bit. So just very basic Blender materials. Okay. So black plastic. Now this one's going to be metal, so I'll create a new material and I'll call it metal. And for this I'm going to change the base color, just knock it up to a little bit blue. And we'll scroll down here, we'll bring the metallic all the way up. And maybe the roughness at 0.4 or something like that. You don't want it too shiny. Something like that looks okay to me. So that gives me all this stuff that's black. And then I'm going to choose that, that's the button. So I'll call that button material, and you can make this whatever color you want. Maybe I'll make it green or so, and just drop the roughness down a little bit. I'm just going to drag it down so you get a nice green button in there. Okay, the last two materials are the glass, so let's take that and let's just call this glass, and then let's hide that, and let's take this one and we're going to call this bulb. And let's work on that one first. Let's go over to the shading tab, and the bulb is selected. And what I want to have on here is an emission. So instead of the Principled BSDF, with that selected, I'm going to press Shift S, shader, and I'm going to choose emission. That changes it. And now you can really go for any color you want here. I'm going to start with a bluish kind of color, and I'm going to make the strength around 8, and you see it actually changes a little bit. Over here on the materials tab, I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to turn on backface culling. I'm going to switch the blend mode to alpha blend, the shadow mode to alpha clip. I'm going to leave the threshold, and I'm going to turn on screen space. Refractions, yes. I also have in here, I can turn on that. I can turn on bloom and ambient occlusion. Now I'm using an older version of Blender that has the bloom right here. I don't think the new one does, but either way, that's done there. So Alt H, I'm going to bring back the glass. Now you can't see anything through it, so I'll come over to the shading tab, and I'm actually going to do a couple of things over here right away as well. I'm going to scroll down, and I'm going to turn on this, and I believe I'm using pretty much the same settings for that. Now you can start to actually see through it. I'm going to double check over here that I haven't done anything wrong. I just want to look over here, alpha clip, alpha blend, backface, blah, blah, blah. Okay, all of that. So this is what we're actually going to set up. We're going to have two Principled BSDFs into a mix shader and a layer weight. So we'll set that up for you. So I'm going to click here. Oh, make that bigger, drag that out. I'm going to press Control Spacebar so we can see this larger. So I have the original Principled BSDF. I'm going to Shift D to duplicate it and drag another one down here. I'm going to Shift A and go for a shader, mix shader, and drag it on here, and then I'm going to connect the two of them. Now at some point this thing may start, recycling, as you can see down here, compiling the shaders. So that we'll have to wait periodically. I'm also going to need one other thing for this input. Shift A, input, layer weight. I'm going to drag that down, and I'm going to change the blend value, and we can look at this later how it affects. I'm going to change it to 0.2, and I'm going to take the Fresnel output and plug that into the fact there. Alright, so now we're just going to play around with a few values on this, and we can periodically have a look at this. I'm going to switch this over as well to this one. It's a little bright, but there, I'm going to do it like that. We're going to make this glow a little bit nicer now. So I'm going to come over here and I just want to check my stuff here. So I'm going to compare the two Principled BSDFs. You can see I've already set this at 0.2 Fresnel into there. So I'm going to leave these on white, and I'm just going to come down. There's really nothing here, no metallic. Specular is fine. But I'm going to drop the roughness on this one, and you can experiment with this stuff. I'm going to just put them at around 0.1, 0.2 each. It's not going to make that much of a difference, but I'll go 0.15 maybe on this, and maybe I'll do 0.2 on that. It really doesn't matter too much. What's going to matter down here is this transmission and emission stuff. So let's just get the values for this stuff. So for both of them, I'm going to have a transmission of 1 and transmission roughness of 0. So let's just do that. So transmission, I'm going to put 1, and that transmission is going to be 1, and it's just going to compile it and set things up. Okay, so now you can see that it's clearer there. All right, next thing. I'm going to be changing the colors of these emissions. So I'm going to make this one like a little bit grayish and this one sort of a bright blue. And the alpha is going to stay the same, but what's going to be different is this emission strength. And again, this one's going to stay at 1, but this one you can play around with. So let's go with that. See, this one's emission 1. Let's change this right away so we don't forget. Put that at about 20. All right, so the color for this one, I said I was going to go for sort of like a grayish brown, and this one you can experiment with. I'm going to try blue, and we're going to see the effect over here. So let's go back to layout, and you can now start to see what's going on with our glow stick. All right, so let's play around with these colors here. If you tried like a pink, make it a little brighter, you can see how that's going to affect things. So it's at this point that you just decide between, the color of your glass and the color of your emission itself. Just to see, I really kind of like the blue. I think that works well. And if I come in here to the bulb itself, you could try, let's say if we try like a yellow. That looks kind of cool, but I kind of think it looks better with either the blue or the white. So maybe I'll put it there. And now let's try experimenting. Let's see, let's get a spot like right around there. I'm going to slide this blend around. See, there it is at 1, 0.8. Slide it down to 0. Try 0.5, go right in the middle. You see sort of more of a frosty kind of a thing. If I put it a little bit lower, it sort of pushes that out. And so you get that glow on the edge. Looks a little bit like a laser. So there is our glass and our bulb, and you can experiment with all those values. And what we want to do now is put some kind of a pattern on the handle. And I'm going to be doing that with a normal map that we'll create in Blender, but we need to set this up. So I'm just going to go back to this, and I'm going to look from the front. I'm going to go into edit mode, and I'm going to slide some edge loops up and down to get an area that I want to work on, and I want to have a pattern. So Control R, I'm just going to drag this anywhere up near the top, maybe around there, and this one anywhere near the bottom, maybe around here. And in this area is where we would have our grip pattern that we're going to create. I'm going to press 2 for edge selection. That one's already selected. I'm going to Shift Alt and click that one and select that. And I want to make a little indent because I find that the pattern will look better separated by an indent. You'll see what I mean. Control B and pull just with 2. Do something like that. E, Alt S and pull and bring it in. And then now we're going to bevel these edges. Shift Alt and click these 2 edges. And Shift Alt and click these 2 edges. And let's bevel. Control B, pull, not too much, something like that, and then roll your mouse up 1. And now we have some indents where we can put our pattern on here. We may need to come over here and add a weighted normal modifier and then normal's auto smooth. Let's see, just watch the model. That changes the shading a bit, and I think it's a little bit more appropriate. All right, now, in order to put the pattern on, we haven't created it yet, we're going to need to unwrap this. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to press 2 for edge selection, and I'm going to select the bottommost edge here. and the topmost, hold Shift and Alt, topmost edge there. I'm going to press Control E, mark seam. So now you can see that orangish red line. This is going to delineate the area that I'm going to unwrap and where the pattern is going to be. But I also need to come to the back, press Control 1, and select the back middle edge, Control E, mark seam. So I can unwrap this, like imagine it's a piece of paper and you cut it there, you can now lay it flat. So let's go over to UV editing and press 3 for face selection, Shift Alt and click on one of these lines, and that will select all of the polys going around up to that seam and down to that seam. Now I'm going to press U, unwrap, and now I have a nice rectangle here that represents this, and we can turn it if we need to. We'll see, but that's all we need to do for the unwrapping. I don't have to unwrap the rest of the model because I'm just using Blender materials. Now I'm going to come over here, and I just want to make sure that I'm going to turn cavity on, just looks a little better. And I'm going to come back to here. So, and let's make sure we're using that same one. I just find it looks a little bit better for what we're doing. So we can see our indented areas here. We could put edge loops in there to tighten that up if we want to, but I don't know if it's necessary. And we want a pattern in here. So we're going to have to create that. Let's go back to layout, press 1 to look from the front. The 3D cursor is right down at the bottom and it's out of the way of the model. So I think we can go ahead and build our normal map design here. So I'm going to press Shift A, Mesh, Plane, and I'm going to go in and I'm going to rotate X 90. Now we just have to decide what kind of a pattern we want. So I'm going to do a simple one and then I'll show you a couple of others and you can decide what you'd want to do. For this one, I think I'm going to right click and subdivide. And I'm going to increase the subdivision a bunch of times. Let's just keep going here. Maybe I'll go all the way up to 10, or I'll just go to 10. With everything still selected, I'm going to press Control F, and I'm going to choose Poke Faces. Now we get this pattern, and then I'm going to do it again, Control F, but I'm going to choose Tries to Quads. And now I have this interesting sort of diamond effect almost. I'm going to press I twice, and then I'm going to pull in, and pressing I twice allows me to get each of these I don't know, rotated squares, diamonds individually. So I'm going to pull in a little bit, and then I'm going to turn, and with them still selected, I'm going to press E, and I'm going to pull out a little ways like that, and I'll get this pattern. It's a little bit like a reptile skin. Now I'm going to add a bevel to this, a bevel, and I'm going to bring that up maybe to 2. I can shade smooth, and if it looks a little funny, I don't know if you think that looks funny or good, I'm going to add a weighted normal and a normal's auto smooth, and it just cleans it up a little bit. So that's the pattern I'm going to try on my handle there. You can do any normal you want. All right. Press 1 to look from the front. My 3D cursor is right in the middle of this. So now what I'm going to do is bring in a camera. I'm going to press Control Alt 0 to look through. But I'm going to make a couple of changes here. I'm on the camera. I'm going to switch the type to orthographic. And I'm going to come up here to the output properties, and I'm going to change the resolution to 1024 by 1024. So I get a nice square region there. All right. I'm going to switch up here to matte cap, and I'm going to choose this one. This is the one for the normal. And so far we have the other model in the way, but we're going to zoom in here. So back to the camera, and here where it says orthographic, start pulling to the left and to the right to zoom in. So I'm there. I'm now going to press GX, and I'm going to move this and try to center it. GZ, center it. And then do this. I'm going to hold Shift, move it slower. And I'm just going to position this so that the pattern is right in the middle. Something like this, but then I'm going to zoom in again. So I'm going to hold Shift and zoom in so that it's just the pattern in the camera frame. I think that's probably good enough. All right. I'm going to turn these off now. And I'm also going to come over here and I'm going to scroll down to the bottom where it says color management, and I'm going to switch this from filmic to standard, and we should be ready to go now. All right, we're just going to render this area, so it doesn't matter if I have the rest of my object up there. Come over to view, viewport render image, and we have created a normal map. All right, so I'm going to save this now. So I'm going to go save as, and I'm just going to save it somewhere, anywhere. I'm going to save it as a JPEG, slide this quality up to 100%, and this is going to be whatever name you want to give it. Okay, done. All right, turn these back on. Let's go back to Studio for now. Press 0 to come out of the camera. We can leave that stuff, or we can hide that. We can hide that, and we're going to come back to our model itself. All right, so come over back over to here. All right, I'm going to go actually back into the shading tab, and I want to focus on that handle area there and get my material up here. So this is it. This is the body material. It's just this black, as you can see, this almost black. We drop the roughness. Now, I want to have two materials on this handle. One is going to be the black, and one is going to be the grip pattern that we just made. So I'm going to come over to the materials, scroll up, and you can see that the body is selected. I'm going to press plus to add a new one and say new, and I'm going to call this grip. Let's come in here, and if this stuff is not selected, press 3 for face selection, Shift Alt and click the same area that we had before, and I'm going to choose assign. Now it's white, but we know that the material is in there, and I'm going to change this to a dark color. It doesn't have to be the exact same black as this, because this is the grip. In fact, you might want to try a different roughness, maybe almost like a rubber kind of thing. Let's try that and see what happens. Okay. On this material, we are going to add that normal map. So Shift A, texture, image texture, drop that there. And with it selected, let's press Control T. Now to do that, you have to have the Node Wrangler enabled. You probably do. It'll come out of UV into this and then over to the image. The image that we want is that normal map we just created, and I called it light stick normal pattern. So we're going to select that, open, but we need to change this from sRGB to non-color. Now take these, press G to move them out of the way a little bit and down. We're going to add a vector normal map, because what we created will be a normal map. Take the color, plug it into the color, and take the normal, plug that into the normal. And you can see your pattern starting. Now, we're going to go back to the UV editor, and I'm going to select this again, and you will see this is the area where we have the pattern. And that looks pretty good to me. Staying on non-color, that's good. I might drop the roughness down to 0.35 or so. Let's see what it looks like, sort of like that. All right, that looks pretty good. Let's see. Maybe I'll try it at 0.5, maybe a little bit less shiny. So we now have our handle with our normal map grip on there. If you want to change the color, you could do something like that, but I don't know that I really want to do that. So we can leave it like that. All right. And that's it. We are done. You can now render this if you want. You can take a screenshot. You can do the viewport render. All right, if you get it in the right spot. And you now have a glow stick. All right, so experiment with different normals. Let's just do that to finish this off here. I'm just going to choose something else that I might have here, these dots. The only thing you need to do is sometimes it flips back to sRGB, so change that to non-color. What's that look like? Okay, dotted handle. Let's try one more. let's come over here and grab this ceiling panel normal that I made for the Moore Black Mesa. Let's just see what that does. Okay, switch that over to non-color. Okay, they're going vertically, so we could take this and we could rotate 90. Pull that in there, maybe scale it a little bit. Hey, that's an interesting pattern as well on there. I don't know if it looks good, but you get the general idea. Okay, so experiment with that. All right, so I'm going to leave it at that for now. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.